bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. On page 128, right in the middle of the page. Heart's delight, source of mercy, draw your servant into your arms. I leap like a deer to stand in awe before you. It's the first two lines of a beautiful Shabbat poem called Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Mishochavtecha El Ritzonecha Mishochavtecha La 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 El Ritzonecha Yaruz Avtecha Kemo Ayam Ishtachavei If you'll turn back to page 120, we come to the blessing for our candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll continue as we make our way in our Siddur to page 130. As we'll welcome in Shabbat with the Psalms of our Kabalat Shabbat. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Naria, naria, litzur yishenu, nekadma fana b'todah. Naria, naria. Nariya Litsuri Shenu Vizmiro Nariyalo Lechu Neranina Lechu Neranina Lechu Neranina Aladonai Lechu Neranina Lechu Neranina Lechu Neranina Aladonai. If you'll read with me at the very top of page 131, this is the second half of the psalm. It talks a bit about God in nature. We're going to talk about that a little bit on this Shabbat in the middle of Sukkot. In God's hands are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel. Bend the knee before Adonai our Maker, for Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. Page 131 from Psalm 96. Shir Adonai Shir Chadash. Sing to God a new song. Sing to God all of the earth. Shir Adonai Kol Haaretz. We start with that line and we go back to the first one. Shir Adonai Kol Haaretz. Shir Adonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Shiru Adonai. Shiru Shiru Adonai. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. When we say Shir Adonai Kol Haaretz, all of the earth sings to God. And in these, in our newish electronic and technical times, those of us in the synagogue are singing to God, and the rest of the earth, which exists through that camera over there. There's us and all the earth. And so Shabbat Shalom to all of the earth who are with us via the camera back there with the red light on it. We continue on page 132. 4 lines from the bottom. Light is sown for the righteous, and for those who are straightforward of heart, there will be happiness. We are in a period of time that we call Zman Simchatenu. Zman Simchatenu means the time of our joy, or the time of our happiness. That's the name of the holiday that we're celebrating right now. I know all of you thought it was called Sukkot. And if you thought it was called Sukkot, you would be right. But the Torah also calls it not just Sukkot, but the Torah gives it another name, Zman Simchatenu, the time of our happiness. Why do we call it the time of our happiness? I'll talk to you in my sermon about that. But right now, we're going to say that if we are righteous people, there is light for us, and if we are good-hearted people, there is happiness for us. That's part of the answer. Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre Lev Simcha. Uyishre Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre Lev Simcha. Uyishre Lev Simcha. Lai 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 Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadi Uyishre as we turn to page 135. From Psalm 99. The last three lines we say, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, we exalt Adonai our God, V'hishtachavu lahar kodsho, and we bow down at God's holy mountain. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, because Adonai our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. A Psalm of David we read together on page 136. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders, Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to cap and strips the force bare. While in God's temple I'll say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. We sing those last two lines together in the Hebrew. Lai 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 lai. Adonai repose le'amo, yitain yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai repose le'amo, yitain yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Lai lai lai. Lai 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 lai. We welcome in the image of the beautiful Shabbat bride as we sing the words of the Chadodi on page 138 and 139. Come, my friends, let us greet the bride. Greet the bride. Beloved, come to greet Shabbat. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamilchad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We're going to go to verse number 5 at the top of page 139. התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise, we face the doors, we welcome in the Shabbat bride. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We've greeted Shabbat. Let's greet each other. Turn to the people in front of you, behind you, to the side of you, to the left, to the right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and while those folks here are greeting everyone, for those of you who are on camera with us on our YouTube channel, and for those of you who are with us on our templeshalom.com live broadcast, we welcome all of you and say Shabbat Shalom to every one of you as well. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll come back to our seats. And again, Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are joining us over there online. If we turn to page 140, we come to Psalm 92, the Psalm of Shabbat. Mizmor Shir, come and sing the Yom HaShabbat, for this day of Shabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is good to give thanks to God. And this is also a Thanksgiving season, our Zman Simchatenu, at the time of our great joy. It's great joy, and there's some Thanksgiving pieces, not the turkey and stuffing part of Thanksgiving. That's a different Thanksgiving, but this is another concept of Thanksgiving. Again, we'll get to that in just a little bit, but right now, Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך אדוני. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד, עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We continue on page 142. One of the Zmirot, these table songs, that, as we call them, that have been written over the centuries, that sung at the Shabbat table, and a couple of them made it into the Siddur, and this is one of them. And we sing these words, Shalom Aleichem, peace to you, O angels. On our Shabbat, everything is doubled. We said a blessing for one candle, we lit two. In some traditions, you have 2 loaves of challah, and Shabbat says that we have 2 souls, and each of those souls should have an angel to protect it, and this is a little welcome note on the front door to all of the angels who are coming to protect our extra soul during this time of Shabbat. On page 142, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bo'achem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nida Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nida Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Next Shabbat, we're going to sing it quickly. Page 144, as we make our way from our Kabalat Shabbat into our Shacharit service. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, Yalmad yivrach yirutev yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayidechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'izman ka'arivim eru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach, le'alam olam me'almaya, yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'ishtabach, v'itba'ar, v'itramam, v'itnaseh, Vita dar, vita le, vita lal, shemedu kudesha, barichu le'ela min kol berchata, v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiron be'alma, v'imeru. Amen. We all rise. Page 146, our invitation to prayer. Lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai, Amevorach, Baruch Adonai, Amevorach, Amevorach, Leolam Va'ed, Amevorach, Amevorach, Leolam Va'ed. We can all be seated. We'll read together in the middle of 149 a poetic rendition of our prayer for creation. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Praised are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. We give thanks for God's love for us through the gift of Torah. Page 150 with the words of Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Ukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita. Al kein Adonai Elohim, Yishovinu etuminu, Nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'b'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed. Ki hein chayenu, be'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam velayla. Va'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Israel. Just another couple of days, we're going to finish reading the Torah, and then we're going to start reading the Torah all over again. Simchat Torah is Monday night. You're all invited to join us for some refreshments and some dancing and great joy and all sorts of fun. But we read a little bit more about this gift of Torah to us on page 151, the bottom, middle of the page, the bottom paragraph, the bottom reading. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? We continue with Shema, page 153 and 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta abam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot be'einecha uv'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'yish'arecha leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'od lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. On 157, we'll read together at the top of the page as we come to our prayer of Geula, our prayer of redemption. Giving thanks for our redemption from Egypt in the physical sense and our redemption from narrow places in the spiritual and psychological sense as well. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promised land passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. As we turn to 158, we sing those words that our ancestors sang as they made their way toward their freedom, as they went through the parted sea on their way toward the promised land. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha ne'edar b'kodesh norah tehilot osei feleh norah tehilot osei feleh Malchutecha ra'u vanecha Ukei hayam nifni Moshe u'Miriam Ze Eli anu ve'amru Ze Eli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Ya lai 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 Ya lai 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 Ya lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai 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 V'ne'emar Ki fada Adonai et Yaakov Ugoalo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Goal Yisrael. We turn to page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, lie us down, Adonai, our God, in peace. V'ha'amidenu shomrenu l'chayim, and make us arise again to life, our guardian, and protect us through the night from enemy and illness and war, from famine and sorrow and wrongdoing, and spread over us a shelter of your peace. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. The three lines that are indented near the bottom. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chaim u'shalom meta ve'ad olam. Laila lai 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 Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Shomrenu l'chayim. Shomrenu l'chayim. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. The last two pieces of music that we sang, the Mi Chamocha that we sang was written by Debbie Friedman, and the Hashkivenu that we sang was written by Craig Taubman, both very contemporary composers. Maybe they were posers too, I don't know, composers. But Debbie Friedman with Mi Chamocha and Craig Taubman with Hashkivenu, two wonderful, wonderful composers that have in modern times given us beautiful synagogue music. And sometimes it's fun to riff on the music that other people write. And so the Chatima, does everybody know the word Chatima? Does anybody know the word Chatima? No one knows the word Chatima. When you write a check, you write who it's to and you write the amount of money, and then you put your Chatima, signature. Every prayer has a signature. And the signature of the prayer is Baruch atah Adonai, the rest of the words. Praised are you, God, who, and then the signature tells you the theme of that prayer, what it's really about. So this one that we just sang, praised are you, God, the signature is, praised are you, God, who spreads a shelter of peace over us. So this is a song, this is a prayer that we sing about peace. The one that was before it, Mi Chamocha, praised are you, God, Ga'al Yisrael, the one who redeems Israel. It's a prayer about redemption. And so we took the music of Debbie Friedman for the Mi Chamocha. We took the music of Craig Taubman for Hashkivenu, and then the Chatima that I sang at the end was not written by either one of them. That was added in later. That was the music for the Chatima for both of those was composed right now when I sang it. I just kind of went with the mode of their music and sang the Chatima to the mode that their music was in. kind of adds a little beauty, I think, to bring. The rabbis of old said that we're supposed to put ourselves in our prayers. When we pray, we're supposed to put ourselves in our prayers. So what does that mean? Well, it could mean that we really think deeply about the prayer. It could mean that we write new prayers with ourselves in it. We sang the Chadodi earlier, right? The Chadodi, if you take the first letter of each paragraph and write it out, the first letter of each of the 9 paragraphs, it spells out Shlomo Halevi, which is the name of the guy who wrote the poem. His name was Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz. So how can you put yourself into your prayer? Well, maybe it's the concept of hit bodedut. Anybody ever heard that word before? Hit bodedut. Hit bodedut means deep introspection in Hebrew. It could be hit bodedut, or it could be putting your name into words of prayers that you write, putting your melody into words that you write, or just finding your way deeper into the words that are in the Siddur. We're going to continue with the deep depths of our prayers with Vishamru at the top of page 162. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam b'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti Sheshed Yamin Asa Adonai Et HaShamayim Ve'et Haaretz U'biyom HaShvi'i Shabbat Shabbat Vayinafa Shabbat Shabbat Vayinafa Shameru Shabbat, Shabbat Vayinafash. We rise as we come to our Amidah, our moment of standing panim el panim, face to face with God, sharing communal words, sharing individual words, praying out loud, praying in silence. We'll join together in the first few paragraphs and then take some time for our own silent prayers, which will end on page 180 or 181. Adonai sifatai tiftach Ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chaste Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechai HaKol Ata Rav leHoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim beChesed, Mechaye HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meim Mechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol Baruch ata Adonai Mechaye hakol. 170 Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah Baruch ata Adonai ha'el HaKadosh. We continue silently through 180 or 181. Page 180. 180, kind of in the middle of the page. Yiyu Uratzon Imrefi Vehegyon Lifanecha Adonai Tsuri V'Goali Adonai Tsuri V'Goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, may they all be acceptable unto you, Adonai, my Rabbi. Adonai, my rock, and my redeemer. L'ratzon, Imrefi, Vehegyon. Adonai, Suri, V'goali, Adonai, Suri, V'goali. Page 371. We'll take a moment to think of those who are in need of healing. We ask for God to bring refuah shlema, complete healing, for Carrie Susser, Brian Zabel, Reuven ben Sipora, Moshe ben Avraham, Avram ben Odul, Ellen McIntosh, Susan Perry, Paltiela bat Mordechai Vevasha, John Sheck, Faye Green, Malka bat Hillel Halevi, Cheryl Miller, Jessica Sidman, Yaakov ben Baruch, Susan Sarachek, Yisraelit bat Hilda, Carol Miller, Howard Messerman, Judy Salkind, Yisrael Aharon ben Reuven Chaim HaKohen, Chris Todd, Gina Hubbard, and Harriet Neal. Do we have any other names that anybody has for healing? Thank you. Any others on this side of the room? Going once. On this side of the room, going twice. Going to the other side of the room. Any names for healing? Thank you. Any others? For all those we've named and for all those in need, may God give all of them refuah shlema, complete healing min hashamayim, from the heavens, refuat hanefesh, healing of their soul, refuat haguf, healing of their bodies, as on page 371 we sing together. Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Nisheberach Imotenu Mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. This Shabbat, tomorrow morning, we do something a little different than we do the whole rest of the year, or most of the rest of the year. We don't read the Torah in order. We usually read one portion, and the next week we read another portion, and we get to the very end. And last week, we got to the end. Well, okay, so not exactly the end. Like, there's one last little bit, we're not going to read it tomorrow. The tradition is that we read it on Simchat Torah, so we're going to read it on Monday night. So if you want to hear the end of the Torah, you should come Monday night. If you want to hear the beginning of the Torah, you should come Monday night, because we're going to be reading both of those. But this weekend we read from the Torah about Sukkot, and we read a few different things about God's commandment of celebrating Sukkot, and then from the Maft here, the very last Aliyah, we read about the sacrifices that are done in particular on Sukkot. And then we bring Sukkot to a close, and Sukkot is 7 days long, or it's 8 days long. It depends upon where you live and what you think, because the Torah says it's 7 days long, but then the diaspora made it 8 days long because we weren't sure when it started and finished in Israel. And then we got this thing called science and calendars and time zones, and we figured it all out. But then some people said, it's been 8 days for so long, let's just keep it that way. And some other people said, no, let's go back to the 7 days like it's in Israel. And it gets a little confusing, but the Torah does tell us that after your days of Sukkot, there's a holiday called Shmini Atzeret. Shmini means the 8th of, and Atzeret means Atzeret. That's what it means. It means Atzeret. It does. It means that. It means Atzeret. We think that Atzeret means something to do with gathering or celebrating joyfully together, but we don't have many resources to cross-check the word that linguists do to find out what ancient words mean. But then we tacked on another holiday because it's not enough in 1 month to have Rosh Hashanah and Tzom Gedalia and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret. No, 5 holidays is not enough. We want 6 holidays in 1 month. So the rabbis add on Simchat Torah. And where did Simchat Torah? Simchat, happiness of or rejoicing of. Torah, of course, means Torah, right? Simchat Torah, rejoicing in the Torah. Where did it come from? It would be like a 4-hour class for me to really tell you where it came from. But I want to tell you one thought of where it may have come from. In the Torah, and then especially in the Mishnah and the Talmud, we get these very in-depth explanations of the other thing that you do during Sukkot, which you have all attended, because I know you all have been to the Simchat Beit HaShoeva. Raise your hand if you've been to the Simchat. No, you don't raise your hands. You've never been there. It was a trick question. None of you have ever been to the Simchat Beit HaShoeva because we don't do it anymore. You're still waving me. Were you at it in ancient times? Are you 2,000 years old? I have a little one in the back waving at me like she's been there, but only if she's 2,000 years old has she been there. But you don't look 2,000 years old to me. No, you don't look a day over about like 6 or 7. So, but the Simchat Beit HaShoeva was the rejoicing in the water drawing ceremony. How many of you are familiar with the water drawing ceremony and the libation offering during Sukkot? Any hands? I'm looking through the camera too. There's no hands through the camera either. Why don't you know about this? The reason you don't know about this is we haven't done this in 2,000 years. That's why you don't know about it. But it's an interesting thing. Maybe Simchat Beit HaShoeva, which is rejoicing in the water drawer's house, was replaced by Simchat Torah, rejoicing in the Torah. Because in the Talmud it tells us that during the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the rejoicing in the water drawer's house, they would dance, they would sing, there would be music with instruments, live music being played, and great rejoicing while people poured out the water on top of the altar. It was done in the courtyard of the temple, not in secret, because we do a lot of stuff in secret, right? The high priest goes in with the goat, only the high priest on Yom Kippur. We don't know what goes in there because we're not the high priest. But it's done in front of everybody out in the courtyard, and everybody's dancing and singing and rejoicing, and it's pouring out the water to bring the upper water and the lower water together. How many of you think about the upper water and the lower water? How many of you have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about the upper water and the lower water? What I'm talking about is next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after that, we are going to read from Parashat Bereshit, from the book of Genesis, the very first chapter. And it's going to say that God made, and I think in your Torah commentaries it will say, a firmament between the waters above and the waters below. God separated the waters above and the waters below, and the waters above became the heavens, and the waters below became the waters of the earth, and God separated them with a firmament. I have no idea what a firmament is, but that's how they translate the word in all the English commentaries. God made a firmament. I prefer the Hebrew word, right? And the Hebrew word actually translates not to, the word, by the way, is rakia. Rakia is the word. And rakia means this. Rakia is a noun, and rakia is a separation. And the idea, it comes from the idea that if you were a metallurgist, if you were a jeweler, and you took gold or silver or platinum, some precious metal, and you pounded it with your hammer, right? And you pounded it, and every time you pound, what happens? It gets a little bit thinner, right? A little bit thinner, a little bit thinner. And if you could pound it right and know exactly that the very next pound is going to put a hole in the metal, because you have pounded it so thin that one more touch of the hammer will put a hole in it, that's what the rakia is. It's that thin layer, so thin that one more tap of God's hammer or of the human hammer on the other side would put a hole in it and destroy the separation between the waters above and the waters below. But during this ceremony of Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the water pouring ceremony, it represents the idea of the waters above and the waters below coming together. You remember earlier in the service I said that Sukkot has a second name in the Torah. Anybody remember the name? In English or Hebrew, I'll take either one. Zman, Festival of Rejoicing, or Zman Simchatenu. 2 points for you, Rivka. You get 2 points. If you ever need 2 more points, now you have them. I don't know what they're good for, but you have 2 more points. Zman Simchatenu, this time, the Zman means time, the time of our happiness or the time of our rejoicing. And why are we rejoicing? Because only a few days ago, before Sukkot started, we brought our souls into the state of ultimate purity at Ne'ilah at the end of Yom Kippur. And then we come into the wandering through the desert and the idea of the temporary nature of everything in the world through the holiday of Sukkot. And we are so happy that we exist in a world that brings elements of the world together, that we are in a Zman Simchatenu, a time of our rejoicing. And we are so happy, and our happiness is so infectious. Do you feel it? It's infectious. More infectious than COVID. It's true. I know we have people in the room who had COVID. This is more infectious than that. Happiness and joy of this Zman Simchatenu, of this time of our joy. It is so infectious that it actually brings the waters above the rakia together with the waters below the rakia. In other words, it brings the heavens and the earth together in rejoicing. So much so that we can be right at that moment of rakia, right before that little hammer hit that would put a hole in it. But in this time, spiritually, the rakia kind of just disappears for a moment. And the waters above and the water below come together, and we become one with the earth and the heavens because we're in a place of such grace and joy. And that's what the Simchat Beit HaShoeva was about in ancient times. The people would come from all over for Sukkot. At the end of Sukkot, they would pour the water from the local Jerusalem wells onto the altar. By the way, anybody only wash their car once a year? This was the once a year cleansing of the altar. I mean, what do they do on the altar? They burn stuff, right? They burn animals, they burn grain, they burn incense, all of that kind of stuff. After you burn stuff for a while, you got to go get that scraper thing from Home Depot and scrape off the grill, right? And so that's what this was also. This was the cleansing of the altar, both in a physical way, it was actually cleaning the altar, and in a spiritual way of also of a cleansing of the spirit for a new year of sacrifices that we're going to make. And so this is the idea, perhaps, of where Simchat Torah came from. We don't have an altar anymore. We don't have a temple anymore. But we don't want to miss out on that rejoicing of the waters above and the waters below coming together. And if I take water and I pour it out here, it makes the sound system sizzle. And that's not a good thing. And it makes messes because we're not in the temple to have a place where we can pour out the water in the ancient temple. And so we got rid of the water and replaced it with the words of Torah and brought that joy to us. So perhaps it's one of the explanations. Perhaps that's where the rabbis came up with Simchat Torah, rejoicing in the Torah. We don't pour out the water on the altar anymore, and so we'll replace the altar with the Torah. We're not going to pour water on the Torah, but we can certainly dance and sing and have instruments and great rejoicing. And so Monday night, we'll remember the water pouring, but we'll dance with the Torah. So if you come with us on Monday night, we'll have a service, we'll have 7 hakafot. We're going to unroll the entire Torah around. If you've never been here for that, it's amazing. We unroll the entire Torah around the sanctuary so you can see every bit of it. And we will engage in our Simchat Torah that was their ancient Simchat Beit HaShoeva. But for all of us, it's rejoicing in a time of great happiness of the upper waters and the lower waters, of the heavens and the earth coming together in a time of great joy for all of us. And so we wish you all a Chag Sameach, a happy holiday, a happy Zman Simchatenu, a happy time of our rejoicing. And we'll bring our service to a close with some final prayers. We begin with Aleinu at the bottom, page 586, as we rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kogoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu ki mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahen, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamalachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, u'shchinatu zo, b'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatuv b'torato, yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim mima'al, ve'al haaretz, mitachat ein od, page 590. Ki המלכות שלך היא עולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad, u'shemo echad. We can all be seated. Maybe that's what we need on Shabbat. More dancing. We haven't had dancing since it was Judy's birthday Shabbat. We had great dancing that birthday Shabbat. We should do that again soon. Let me tell you, in the Talmud, when it talks about this Simchat Beit HaShoeva, it says this. It says, I'm going to read you directly from the Talmud, that on this day, the most serene and modest scholars danced in ecstasy and did cartwheels in front of the temple as expression of their soulful elevation. These festivities were called Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the joy of the water drawing, where the spirit of holiness was drawn down to earth on hearts filled with joy. So maybe that's how we bring more hearts filled with joy, more dancing. I think we're going to have more dancing on Shabbat soon. We're going to do that. But in the meantime, before we dance, we're going to mourn. It actually says they actually go together. It actually says there's two different places in the book of prophets. It tells us, it says, you should go from mourning to dancing. And so as we make our way through kind of the cycle of life, we mourn and then we dance, and then we mourn and then we dance. It's the cycle of life. And at this moment, we mourn. We remember in our yard sites this week Alfred Sobelman, Janet Duchin, Molly Wolock, Harriet Faber, Jacob Benamu, Julie Muling, Melvin Berger, Bernice Albin, Max Gordon, Raymond Deutsch, Saul Schmemmerman, Jacob Heller, Jeanette Ritterband, Louis Suslow, Lottie Goodman, Philip Cook, Robert Suslow, Sean Murphy, Adina Gang, August Chernow, Frida Klein, Melvin Marcus, Diane Page, Rachel Gang, Francis Hiddleman, Joseph Wallach, and Werner Heim. Are there any other yard sites that anyone is observing? Yehiyu Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be an eternal blessing. We ask mourners to rise and those whose custom it is to stand with them. As we turn in our Siddur to page 598, as in their memory we sanctify God's name. Yitgadal, Yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divra Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala V'zman Kari V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Almaya, Yitbarach V'ishtabach V'itpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, V'ithadar V'yitaleh V'ithalal Shemei D'kudasha B'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbichata v'nechemata, D'amiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We can all be seated. You want to do some announcements for us? They're right up here on the bima. Yes, I will. Carolyn Geiser, representing our board of directors, will share with us a few announcements.
Thank you all for joining us this Shabbat for our service. Now I'm close enough.
Now we can hear
Now
you.
I'm close
Perfect.
enough. Yeah. If you're new or visiting Temple Shalom for the first time, please be sure to introduce yourself and let us welcome you. Thank you, Rabbi Jay Sherwood, for leading us this evening. A special Todah Rabbah to everyone who helped with the service, which wasn't very many. we all helped. We all sang. We didn't dance, Judy. We got to get those tambourines going. Okay. Thanks for all who participated in the preschool. Was there a preschool today?
There was preschool today.
Okay. Oneg, just 2 more town halls to go, and at 12:30 today for a post-Kiddush input session, and tomorrow at 11. Not tomorrow. That can't be right. No. Register for 2 services on Monday, October 17th, Shemini Aretz, and Yizkor at 9:30, and Simchat Torah at 6 p.m. There's no religious school on Tuesday. Come to Simchat Torah instead. Sign up now for a crash course in Hebrew with our own Kobe Chumash. The first class is October 18, and we have just a few slots waiting to be filled by just a few of you. Go to templeshalom.com and look for October 18th. Click on the class and sign up. Spend 8 or 9 weeks with some great people. Next weekend is the bat mitzvah of Elena Schwartz. Elena will be
Eliana.
Eliana. I'm reading the word that I'm familiar with. Will be called to the Torah at the Saturday morning service, October 22nd. Mazel tov to Bruce and Biana Schwartz on the bat mitzvah of their daughter Eliana, from everyone at Temple Shalom. Peter Gerfin, Temple Shalom board member, has volunteered to help with those who use the Amazon shopping app on their devices, usually a phone, but also on your computer, take advantage of Amazon's Smile feature. Yes, that is possible, and it helps the temple gain a few more pennies. So please, if you need help, call the temple and we'll put you in touch with Peter. If you know of any temple members who are ill, hospitalized, or suffering from a loss, please contact the temple office so we can be sure to provide encouragement and support. And thanks to Temple Shalom for the oneg this evening. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We have cookies and two sort of cakes things, which I know that they're okay because I bought them.
Cookies and two sort of cake things. It's a very technical term. Two sort of cake things. This is a time of, as we said, Zman Simchatenu, a time of happiness and rejoicing. And these words mean, come be glad and rejoice. And some people dance to this melody. So all of you people at home, I want to see you at home dancing. We'll see if any dancing happens here. It's at the bottom of 654 if you're actually looking in your Siddur. Or if you want to get up and dance to these words, you feel free to, because it says, come, let us be glad and rejoice, let us sing and rejoice. Awake, friends, and fill your heart with happiness. Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Vein, Ishlecha. Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Vein, Ishlecha. Hava nirnina, hava nirnina, hava nirnina, vein ishmecha. Hava nirnina, hava nirnina, hava nirnina, vein ishmecha. Urachim, urachim, b'sameach, urachim, b'sameach, urachim, b'sameach, urachim, b'sameach, urachim, urachim, b'sameach. Hava nagila, hava nagila, hava nagila, vein ishmecha. Hava nagila, hava nagila, hava nagila, vein ishmecha. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I saw you people on the camera. You were dancing. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Those of us that are here at Temple Shalom will join together for a little Kiddush and Motzi in the back of the room. And if you'd like to hang out in the sukkah a little bit, we'll open up the door, we'll go out to the sukkah, and we'll see you there. We'll see you all in the back of the room. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.